All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Cody. I am the program director over here at Workflow Secrets, and we are diving into ChatGPT. I'm going through all these videos and kind of showing you what we are doing over here, what I'm doing, how I'm learning, and really how I'm using this tool. And then I'm trying to apply it to you, the real estate agents who are tuning in at home, how you can take this tool and really apply it into your own business and start to minimize things that might take hours and hours and hours. Again, over here, our goal is always to optimize your business so that you don't have to spend as much time doing it and can maybe focus on things that are more life-giving, whether it be friends, family, maybe that activity you picked up a couple years ago and just haven't been able to hit. But anyways, the last video, and I'll throw it like right up here, I dove into how we can start seeding information in ChatGPT. Now, you might have made it through the video and realized that I didn't actually get to show you in ChatGPT what seeding is because unfortunately they are expanding so rapidly that they are struggling to get everyone in. And so I got logged out and locked out. But over the weekend, I was able to get back in. Mark texted me. He's like, I'm in, hurry. And I like ran to my computer and I was like, get in. And I got in. So what I have spent a extensive amount of time doing is seeding in some of the information. So this is a companion video, and I wanted to circle back and show you guys what I've done and how giving that additional context to ChatGPT has been fruitful for us over here, and how you might be able to do the very same steps for your own real estate business. Again, we talk about this in our book, Our Best Workflow Secrets. This is a real estate agent's guide to success, even in the changing market, which we are experiencing right now. But you can become the expert, and you can start seeding in all of this information that you know as the expert into a specific niche in your business. And ChatGPT can learn from that. And as you're seeding this information to it, you can start to ask it questions and it can start to operate as an assistant. So that's what we're doing today. And without further ado, I will share my screen and I'll show you guys what I was able to do with ChatGPT. So very first, I started off by explaining that I'm going to give it a little bit of background information, understanding terms and concepts, ideas, and it starts, validating. Okay, yeah, not a problem. And once I did that, I started plugging in some information. Now, I wanted to start off by explaining what a workflow is. And that's because we use RealVolve. RealVolve is an incredible real estate specific CRM. And Mark's actually the creator of it. So he put a lot of intention into it. So I wanted to be very specific with it understanding workflows because after this, we're going to go back and I'll show you guys a little bit later in this thread. We are going to ask it to build us some workflows. So very important, start off with some terms and terminology. Now, the other thing that I want to know before I dive too deep into this, if you notice to the very left-hand side, I have a tab called core seeding. So this is where I think ChatGPT is going to get super interesting because as prompt engineering starts to become more and more prevalent, you can start seeding in specific topics within your chat GPT in these different little buckets. And as you can see, I'm starting to fill up lots and lots of different buckets. And all of this is different context. Now, each of these is locally given knowledge. So from bucket to bucket, chat GPT is not going to retain different knowledge. So it's really important to think that seeding is an effort that can be given, and it's helping you in your specific account have a better companion. But let's say I go to this new chat. Well, it's not going to know about core in that new chat because I haven't seeded it with it. And so that's a little side note for this. But jumping back into what I was seeding, I was training ChatGPT with, I was telling it about workflows. It starts to reiterate back to me what a workflow is. I'm validating, that's right, validating what it's giving me. It's giving me good explanations, so I want to encourage it. And then I start to ask it to create, which is a little power word for GPT, create, explain, give an example of steps within a workflow. Just again, I'm trying to validate that what it understands is good information. So when I first started, it starts giving me out these steps. Now, not bad, but when I wanted to refine this, I really wanted to make workflow super easy for me. So I said, this is a great example, but instead of steps, I actually have what are called activities and actions within a workflow, actions and activities. So I said step 7 is actually an activity. And then I explain a little bit about what an action would be and what an activity is. And so it actually validates itself. It says, yep, that's correct. And so then from there, it starts to apply that knowledge a little bit differently. And I'm validating that it applied that knowledge correctly. And then we move forward. Now, after I explained about workflows, the next big step for me was to start to take stuff from our book and plug it in. So there's several different concepts that I really wanted to cover. The first big one being in section 1, understanding your why. Once you understand your why as a real estate agent, makes it super easy. And we have the truth framework. I think I talked to you guys about this on our last video, understanding your why with the truth framework. And I'm teaching GPT all about it. I'm seeding it with this information. After I do that, I seed in all about the expert and how you become an expert. And I'm just validating and asking. So I literally took the passage of the book and I plugged it in there. And then I started asking it to do 3 things for me. The first thing that I want is, as I'm writing content, analyze and provide feedback about the content and how I might improve it. Now, what this does for me is it allows me to have GPT interacting with me, and maybe I can start learning how I could have better presented the content, whether for GPT or for you guys, the real estate agents. So as I'm learning, as I'm feeding, as I'm seeding this information to GPT, it can also start helping me get better. After that, I asked it to, as I'm writing content, please take what I've provided and give detailed information on each of the examples used. Now, again, I'm looking for GPT to give me back that responsive information so that I can validate whether GPT is or is not understanding what I'm doing. And then the last one is, please restate what you have learned as I'm sharing it so that I can help guide you in understanding and providing better assistance. So all of these 3 things are contextually going to help me evaluate what GPT is doing, what its understanding of this is. And the goal of this at the end of the day is just to be able to give all this information to GPT and it understand, it retain, and it be able to process this so that it can give me better answers. Now, how you might apply this in real estate is, again, you as the expert have all of this great information. I think the example I used in this past video was maybe you are super knowledgeable about a first-time home buyer process. So you are the first-time home buyer expert, right? And so how you could do that, you could start seeding in terms and terminology and grants and programs and all of these different things within GPT. Now, as you're seeding that in, using something like this, these 3 statements that you want, you are able to validate to GPT the information that it's providing back to you. So you're teaching GPT. Now, something in my life, I'm a martial artist, and one of the things that we say in martial arts when we get paired with new students is the only way for you to gain true expert in that martial art is to teach. And the real masters teach. And I think the same could be applied for real estate. So you're teaching GPT, you're understanding, you're validating your own experience. GPT is learning, GPT is challenging you on what you do know with what it knows. And as you are seeding all of this information, you're able to just drive better expert for yourself. And now you have a better trained assistant within GPT. So I just think that's so cool. So I continue onward and I explain to it about the truth framework within why. And then I move on to the next section, that expert section. Same concept. I give it the passage from the book, and it is a little lengthy, but I was impressed that GPT was able to handle it. And then it summarizes all of that now that it has that context of the three things I'm looking for. And it actually dives in with the three specific things being restated very plainly. And after that, I validate what it gave me because it gave me good answers. One of the things that we have in our best workflow secrets is 100 possible niches that could be example. Now, if you would like to pause this video and steal any of this content, please do. This book is a tool for you. You can find it on Amazon, but at the end of the day, I want you guys to take all of these concepts and apply them to your business, right? So if $19 is too rich for your blood for literally all of our secrets, I took 3 decades of stuff Mark has been teaching to agents. It's probably in a video somewhere, and it might be this video. So feel free and pause if you need one of these niches. If you're looking for the passage about becoming the expert, have at it. What is mine is yours, because it all comes back to you. But after that, it thanks me for providing additional context. I think it's so funny. A little bit later, it starts validating its own self as it's answering. And then I start validating, continue on. And this just goes on and on for a while. So as we do that, I start diving into the core strategy frameworks. So I'm just going concept by concept, and I give it a high level overview of what core is. And then after that, I start breaking core into its pieces, the conversions, the operations, the retention, and the experiences. When I do that, what I start asking GPT to do is give me detailed examples of each of those bullet pointed pieces from the book. So again, I'm seeking out additional context that GPT can provide based on what it knows and what it's learned thus far. And it does a really good job. Now, Mark reminded me of this the other day, but the power of the continue button is just so important, because GPT does sometimes just like stop, and you're like, you gonna keep going? And so sometimes you have to hit continue. It'll keep going. And so I'm just going through all the different pieces of core, validating. Again, this is going to be pretty repetitive at this point, but what it starts to do is, it starts to build a cohesive understanding of all of these different pieces. Now, once I get through all of these different pieces, I can start to ask it questions and start to kind of ideate away from that. So let me just quickly scroll through. And here's actually a funny thing. So as I was typing, we had made it through the retention, and it starts giving me core strategies, experiences, and starts breaking it out. And it's funny because I hadn't given it the experiences section yet. And so I said, that's great. Here's actually what I had currently written for the experiences. So it starts giving me answers for that experience, which is just so cool. And then I start giving it experience based for the core strategies. And then it starts to, validate. But it was so funny to me. I was like, wait a second, why are you teaching me about experiences? Oh, I must have trained you well enough. That's pretty cool. So after that, I ask it to kind of dive a little bit deeper, explaining the entire core strategies so that it, can validate its overall understanding. And then I kind of transition. I was curious to see, we have a 15-week long program within core strategies, what it would think a great flow of core strategies would be for that 15 weeks of programming. So I asked it, and here's what it gave me. Weeks 8 and 9, experiences, systems, implementing and automating systems, measuring and analyzing. These are all great things. And truthfully, some of this stuff we actually do integrate into our programming. What I did think was interesting was sometimes it has like 2 week chunks, right? So that was interesting. Like week one is kind of an intro, but then it breaks out in these 2 week chunks. So I thought that was interesting. It doesn't go week by week, but again, that at some point is something that I could have been like, oh, can you break that down week by week instead of 15 weeks? At this point, I didn't do that. I give it additional context because at the end of the 15 weeks, we actually do 37 weeks of refinement with your systems. And we do this in our core strategies group so that you can hear from other agents. You can work with Mark and I, and you can just really refine and tweak those systems that you spent those 15 weeks learning and building and executing on. So I give it that additional context. And then it starts building out what this would look like for, again, the 15 weeks so that you can understand that. And I said, that's a great job. I realized that on that experiences, I didn't ask it to utilize those three things. So I did circle back with those. And then I decided, you know what, maybe I should shorthand these. And so I named them the 3 parameters of understanding, just so that GPT can understand. I can shorthand myself. And so from here on out, if I say, GPT, will you give me the 3 parameters of understanding? It'll utilize these 3 questions in a way that it's just quicker. And I kept scrolling back up and trying to find them and figure out how I stated them. So it was just easier to just like, here it is. I probably should have done that earlier, but it's what I did. And so it gives me the 3 parameters of core. And once it does that, I was all set. I continue, blah, blah, blah. And then I validated, that's a great summary of core and all the core pieces. I would like for you to finish the full 15 weeks because it started giving me out the breakdown for the core strategies program again after I had validated all of that experience. So it gives me all of this, and I asked for it to share with me, or I stated to it that I was going to share more from my book. This is when I started talking about a world-class client experience. It's another section in the book, and it's another concept that Mark likes to teach on. And it's essentially, how can you as a real estate agent show up for your clients in a way that is going to drive a world-class client experience? He has this great example of the Ruth Chris Steakhouse that he visited in San Diego, California, and just this experience that he had and how he was treated pretty well like a king. And when he returned home from the trip, he found a signed letter from them just thanking him for showing up. And he was just so taken aback. Not only did it make it into the book, not only am I talking about the steakhouse currently, years and years after Mark had ventured there, but it makes for a great example. So Ruth Chris is, he's inspired, they were inspiring Mark to share about it. And the thought is, as a real estate agent, if a steakhouse can inspire Mark to talk about it years later, how can your world-class experience that you give your clients inspire them to not only be your biggest fans, the people who are talking about you all the time, but the people who remember you years and years later and are eager to come work with you. And I just think that if you can capitalize on that as a real estate agent, you're going to start to unlock the secrets to not having to rely on lead generating efforts month over month. And there is a little bit of building. There is a lot of work that has to be done. But if you're able to show up for your clients in a really powerful way, I think it does that. So that's world-class client experience. I share with him the section within this book. It's all about how Mark experienced that. And if you want to learn more, I'm going to plug the book. I'm just going to keep plugging it. But we would be so grateful if you would pick up a copy and read it. And, I think there's so much there for you as a real estate agent. But after that, it explains it. It uses those 3 different pieces to break down what it learned. And then it summarizes, gives an example, and from there we go on. And I validate. This is a great example. Now, what it did was I asked it for another example that could be used. I wanted to see, okay, I told you about Ruth Chris Steakhouse. Are you able to understand well enough that you could give me an example? And it talks about an example of a luxury hotel stay. It paints the picture of the front desk greeting you by name, helping you with check-in. Once you're in your room, you find it is beautifully decorated. It's explaining how you're experiencing something really great, how the hotel stay as well, and you are provided with concierge service, and they're making recommendations for local attractions. At the end of your stay, the hotel staff thanks you for your visit. So it understands the general concept that Ruth Chris gave Mark and how it could be applied to a hotel. Well, that's cool, but I want to know how we can apply this to real estate because I'm here for you guys. And so I said, that is a great example. Good job. What about a specific example for real estate? And it says, you know what, that's a good point. And so it starts explaining how a real estate agent can provide a world-class client experience. So they could provide concierge style service, coordinating with the inspector, contractors, professionals on behalf of you, or on behalf of the client. Make sure the client is informed. They may organize an open house, staging event. Overall, real estate agents provide world-class experience would be focused on making their clients feel valued, heard, and taken care of. Now, this is pretty generic, right? But I did say, this is a great example. Would you mind making an example of the world-class client experience into a handout that we could provide real estate agents? So this is kind of where it starts to get fun, right? Because once we've seeded information and validated that it understands what we're teaching it, we can ask it to provide us with examples of resources that we could use to build out either things that we're providing our customers or even just frameworks or skeletons of things that we ourselves can use in our marketing efforts, in our resource building, and all of that. So here's an example of a handout, and it gives me 9 just quick bullet points. And so what I could do with this is I could take this world-class client experience bullet list and I could copy it to a document and I could iterate on it, I could refine it, and I could add discernment, which is my favorite keyword. And from there, I could start sending it out to you guys. In fact, if you would like this 9-piece list, maybe I'll do just that. But I thought to myself, you know what? There's probably an additional step forward we could go. And so I asked for it to take those 9 points and create a more detailed example for each. Bullet points are great, but I want some detail. I want to understand if ChatGPT really gets this concept, and I want to make sure that I am able to give you, the real estate agent, something that is really powerful. So it takes all of these 9 bullet points and it gives a quick little detailed example. Now, what this could do for me is it helps me with context of how I should be writing it so that I can help you guys. In a real estate specific phrase or example, think about how you could do this for your clients. Now, let's say back to that first time home buyer example, you've seeded all of this information and you started asking it questions like this to create handouts, and it would probably give you a 9-point list, and then you could ask for it to explain in detail a little bit more. Now, once you've explained when you're on that first time home buyer, here are the programs, here are the benefits, here are the features, here are all of these areas of expert that you're able to drive value, write out, a handout that I could give out. Well, then what we could do with this handout is we could take each of these and we could ask it to write a specific email template for each of these different bullet points, or explain at length each of these bullet points in a way that helps a customer most understand it. So there's all sorts of really cool stuff. And I didn't go that route. I just, I kind of observed here because, there's a lot of stuff that I'm trying to seed into it. Maybe we'll circle back at some point, but I thought that was really cool. And I like to validate, well done. This is a great example. Nice work. Thank you. And After that, I moved onward. Now, the next piece of the book is the design, build, run, repeat um, framework. And it is kind of a way for you to implement or execute in your business on developing all of these different systems. So first you need to understand how your day is gone. You need to design those systems, whether it be drawing it on a whiteboard, or a lot of people use post-it notes, and just understanding once that you can then build it, you need to run it. And then after that, you can repeat it. And so we talk about that in this entire section. There's different examples, and I literally just plugged in all of the text. It's got lots of stories, got lots of examples, lots of different pieces, and then it does the three that I asked. It explains what it is. It understands. It gives me that comprehension. Now this comprehension is pretty minimal, so I could have gone and I could have asked for additional context, but I didn't. It was good information, so I validated it. And then after that, it was asked for an example of a timeline that a real estate agent might follow in the design, build, run, repeat. So this is where I started playing out just to see what the comprehension looks like, right? So using the design, build, run, repeat process, give me a timeline of something. And so maybe a new lead entry comes in January 1. Well, what are some of the different steps before the signed agreement, before the offer is received, before the post closing is assigned? Now, none of that stuff I specifically seeded into ChatGPT. It already understands real estate, which is awesome. That's so cool. And it understands how different things are going to have different dates. It's giving me an example of a potential timeline. Now, as a real estate agent, you could take these timelines, you could add your own discernment to it, and you could better understand when those dates actually need to be happened. Maybe from first contract date to appointment book date, we don't need 2 days. Maybe 2 days is too short. Maybe 2 days is not short enough. I don't know. But for your specific market, for your specific niche, for your specific client, all of those are going to change. But ChatGPT gave me an example. And again, we could be training it saying, oh, you know what, from first contract date to appointment book date, I actually need 7 days instead of 2 days. And then it could make those adjustments. Then it would understand that your specific process can be adjusted that way. So I like that example. I think it's well thought through. And so I said, that's great. Now, what I wanted to do is see if all the way back on the top, I said I would come back to this. I wanted to see if it would create a workflow for me. And so it gives me an example of a workflow timeline. And it's because I was asking about timelines earlier, and it gives me a 15-point list. And that's not bad. I could take this list and I could start building out a workflow, but I wanted to see if it could give me a little bit more. So I said, from this workflow, will you take these points and organize them into the activities and the actions for the dates that are specifically given? And this is where the real cool stuff happens, because it starts building out the skeleton of a workflow for me. So what I could do is I could take this and I could literally go step for step, and I could build it out in workflow or in RealVolve live, and created brand new workflows. So I could title this activity the new lead entry date. And I know the activity is going to have that. There's an action assigned to it so that I know how to follow it. Again, all of these things are the skeleton, so maybe I need to tweak them. Schedule an appointment for a consultation. Maybe that's not detailed enough. I don't know. Maybe for your specific needs, that's exactly what you need, just to like get the juices flowing. We're looking at this as a baseline. We're kind of using GPT to help us get that creative juices flowing. That way we don't have to sit here for an hour thinking about what are all the steps that I need. Mark talks about all the time about when you're building workflows, it's kind of like a bullseye, right? You need to start with all of the specific things, and then you can kind of build out all of your processes. This would be where you would be able to take the skeleton of it, and now you don't have to think about the specific things. You can think about how they specialize for each of these different pieces. So really cool. And as you can see, it generated all this great information. And I asked it to continue, and then it breaks it up into weeklies. And I said, "Great job. That's a great example of a workflow." And from here, that's where I stopped, and I've got more stuff to seed into it. Unfortunately, I ran out of prompt sends for the hour, so it's like, hey man, slow down. Yeah, you're working real hard, and GPT needs water break too, I suppose. So that's what I got so far. Hopefully this drives some additional context for you. And I hope you liked what you saw today. Hope it gave you some more context to what seeding is and how you as a real estate agent can start seeding information into ChatGPT. So I hope that you're having just a great time playing in GPT, working in GPT, using GPT to empower your real estate business. And this is what we are doing over here. Obviously, Core Strategies is a 15-week program that we do with 37 weeks of refinement. We work with real estate agents who are seeking to just have more success in their business, spend less time, and do it at a really high level. It's created some incredible experiences and incredible results, and it takes everything in this book plus some that we do live based on your specific needs and context of your specific business, and it really drives forward so that you as a real estate agent can just find that success that we know that everyone's looking for, everyone deserves. And so if you're interested in it, I will throw a link down below for the application, and we would love to have you. We'd be so grateful. But otherwise, let me know, what are you doing in GPT? Does this help you understand what seeding is a little bit more? And how is GPT helping you in your real estate business? But other than that, I'm going to keep playing, and I will be back shortly, I'm sure, with more videos on what we're doing and how we're using ChatGPT and how you as a real estate agent can apply them directly to your business. But until then, I will see you guys very soon.